welcome to All Hang Up and Listen, brought to you by Fatty Beer Company, Western New York's premier market and tap room with 8 different Western New York locations, open 10:30 a.m. till 11:30 a.m. till 10:30 p.m. and later with live trivia, entertainment, and music at all 8 locations, 7 nights a week. Make sure you check out Fatty Beer Company, one of Western New York's only kid and dog friendly bars. One day I'll get that perfect on the first of times. One day. And of course, Buffalo Go Apparel, one of the best places to get all of your Buffalo sports apparel needs, whether it's your shirts, your hats, your hoodies. Buffalo Go really does have it all. One of the best hats they probably carry, the NFL Shield Buffalo football trucker cap. Really golden, and look out. They're going to be starting to produce our merchandise very, very soon. They started to tease that actually on their Instagram page. So make sure you go check it out at Buffalo Go Co. on Instagram and Twitter, at Fatty Beer on Instagram and Twitter. Sabres win 7-2. Holy shit. They went to the net, they did the thing, and they won. They had 5 goals from going to the net tonight, to be precise. Connor, you watched the game. Give me your thoughts.
People out here in LA are just absolutely devastated right now. The three LA fans, the LA Kings fans that exist in this city are just besides themselves. It was refreshing to say the least.
Were they all in your living room watching the game with you?
There's quite literally probably less than 1,000. It was cool to see. I think we're having a much different conversation about this team had they actually scored a couple goals against the Stars and the Blues. I thought they played pretty well in both games, against the Stars especially. And if they had, that would have been a 5-game win streak, and then they would have been right back in it. But unfortunately, consistency has been the killer this season. But tonight, as you said, they went to the net. They had some jam. They cycled the puck. They had a forecheck. They did all the things that they haven't been doing to score goals, the things that they did last season, the things that they've done in seasons prior that they haven't done this year. So it's encouraging, I guess. The Kings have not been good recently. I follow them relatively closely, just being out here. They fired a coach a couple weeks ago, ever since the Sabres came back from that deficit a few weeks ago. So it's not like we can say that this is going to be the turning point for this team to make the playoffs. But you got some contributions up and down the lineup, and it's somewhat encouraging, and it's nice for a change to see a seven goal output from this team finally.
Yeah. One thing I do want to point out, we talked about production up and down the lineup. Tage Thompson, 0 points tonight. Are we concerned?
I think he's still dealing with something. He obviously hasn't looked too great coming out of the All-Star break. He was looking really good there for a minute, and I think he had some good chances tonight. But it is what it is at this point. I think that's a good it's a good representative of the entire season. The fact that Cousins, Tage, and Tuck, and even Skinner recently haven't produced. So that's unfortunate, and that's something that obviously needs to be worked on. And I attribute some of that at least to the system that they've been playing and the lack of production they've gotten around the net and the ability to get him in open spaces. So yeah, it's concerning, but it's been concerning for most of the year. So
we'll air it on Hockey Hotline here momentarily, but that was obviously a big topic from a couple of our callers. Like, why were you unable to have this type of effort below the dots all season? And where would this team be had they, put forth this effort in front of the net all season? That's what's the most concerning thing to me, is why did it take your coach calling you out essentially in a post game for you to do this? And I'm not buying in. I tweeted it when it was 3-0. I don't care if they scored 4 goals after that. I'm not buying into this right now, because we've seen them win games 6-0 this season. Did they win a game almost 8? Was it 8-0?
9-3 against the Blue Jackets? No, the Leafs, right? And that was after
there was a couple pretty high scoring games. Listen, I'm not buying into it. I'm just not.
No,
LA has been a friggin' nightmare. It has been a train wreck the second half of this season. I'm not gonna get me 3 games in a row. Win me 3 games in a row for the first time this season, and then you'll have me back. But until then, I refuse to buy in.
Yeah, no, I mean, they haven't given us reason to believe that they've been able to put this type of effort together consistently. You've got the Panthers at home on Thursday night, one of the better teams in the league. So that's going to be a challenge, obviously. And then I think they're on the road against the Wild on Saturday, who aren't amazing, but still two tough games to get that 3-game win streak. So unless they do, yes, we cannot be naive and figure as though this is the turning point for this team, because they've shown that they've had these types of games, and then the next game they come out and they can't do anything. So we'll see. But yeah, I would say the one thing that is reason for optimism, and I saw a chart earlier today that the Sabres were one of the worst, actually no, the literal worst team in the league creating chances and scoring goals off the cycle in the forecheck this season. There are ways to quantify that, and they have not done that at all. And I think that's a product of the type of player that's on this team for the most part, and guys not doing what they need to do to get to the tough areas. But they did that tonight, Jordan Greenway specifically. And I think he's been doing that most of the season. Obviously, he's not putting up crazy numbers, but he's one of the few guys on this team that does get to the front of the net, that lays a couple hits in the offensive zone and creates problems for other teams defensively and getting out of their own zone. So obviously need more of that, and you can't just have him. You got to have all the guys that contributed tonight. So it's a good sign, but yeah, it might be a little bit too late.
Yeah. Hopefully, we heard a lot about from Kevin Adams today when he went on WGR about the rumors mill surrounding Casey Middlestat, which me and you haven't really been able to talk about. That was essentially started by after the whistle. I think, the rumor was that they're listening on Casey Middlestat. And it's shopping, but they're listening, which I think they'd be stupid not to, personally. I think you should be listening to all players on this team, with the exception of a small handful. And then, that made its way to Elliot Friedman. Elliot Friedman talked about it on 32 Thoughts. So he kind of put that to bed about the fact that they're not shopping him. They're not making calls about him, but they are listening. He also talked about Alex Tuck not being, on the market. Like, they're not shopping him. They're not listening on Yuri Kulik. That's another name. He mentioned that Devin Levi's time in Buffalo isn't done probably yet. They're going to reevaluate in 3 to 4 weeks, which I agree with. Let him cook for a month in Rochester and see where you're at. Another thing, too, is that they're not going to be looking for picks and prospects via trade deadline. They're looking to make their team better now and next year. Like to hear that. And there was also a big topic of conversation about Terry Pagula and his involvement. And he essentially, and I expect the GM to say this, that he's in on every meeting, he watches every game, this, that, and the other. Like, listen, I fully expect the GM, who was unqualified for the position, to say that about the guy who hired him. I wouldn't expect anything less. So I think there's what Kevin's saying, what we think, and the truth, which is somewhere in the middle. Do I think Terry is as involved as Kevin say he is? I don't know about that. I think he's more involved now that the Bill season's over. But a lot from Kevin Adams today on the state of the team and the ownership.
Yeah, I would say that Terry definitely does watch every game. I think that it would be very surprising if he didn't. The reason he bought the team in the first place is because he grew up a Sabres fan. So I think he is a fan first. And I've never thought that he wasn't, that he doesn't care about the team. It's just more so that we've talked about that, given that he now owns the Bills as well, and it's a higher profile franchise, and it's more nationally relevant, and it's a league that creates more revenue and makes him more money, that he focuses more of his energy into the Bills, which can also be true. So I didn't find any of the things that Kevin Adams said about Terry to be particularly surprising, as you said. He probably is in on some amateur scouting meetings. I'm sure he talks to Kevin Adams daily. But that also is not the same thing as getting the things that we've requested: improvements to the arena, director of hockey operations, a legitimate coaching staff surrounding a guy that, like we all felt really good about in Don Granato last season, but now not so much. Another first-time head coach. So Yeah, I
Get
think
used to it. Not to but get used to it because there's
no,
no
I
chance
don't.
they're firing him.
No, I don't necessarily think they will either. And also, I don't. As much as he's been frustrating this season with some of the lineup changes, I don't necessarily think he's the problem. I really don't. If he didn't install this system that created this offensive stagnantness that they've had this year, then yeah, that's a huge issue. But it's mostly the power play. You tweeted out earlier, they're a playoff caliber team at 5-on-5, and they've been really good this year for the most part. But the power play has been abysmal. They're 29th in the league coming into tonight, and they got a couple goals on the power play tonight. And that's just unacceptable, especially given where they were last season, which was a top 10 unit for most of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So who's ever in charge of that power play, and it's on the players as well for not executing, but it's been mostly the same and boring and dull and ineffective the entire season. So I think that's the main reason.
From our boy Ty B. So JJ Paterka scores whenever I'm in attendance. Who is willing to donate me season tickets so we can all bet JJ to score 41 games a year and become rich?
He also has a JJ Paterka jersey, which I think we're going to start seeing a lot more of after this year.
100% leading scorer. Did he have 2 tonight? No, he had one.
Only one, but he's got 19 now.
19 on the season, 1 away from 20, which is surprise. Here's a surprising thing. That'll be the team's first 20 goal scorer. It'll be JJ Paterka.
Well, given the way it's gone, I'm not particularly surprised.
Well, no, but to start the season,
yeah, for sure.
If you would have told me JJ Paterka would be the only 20 goal scorer at this point of the season, I would have told you you're an idiot. Unless there were a huge string of injuries, I would have thought you were crazy. But here we are. Some more comments here from the Peanut Gallery before we get over to Hockey Hotline. Finally, a fun game to watch. Sadly, but expected Olofsson was invisible tonight. I forgot that he was playing, to be honest with you.
He didn't need to do anything. So
no, but that was a thing too. I think he was asked about it, and he has approached Kevin about being moved. And I think he definitely needs a change of scenery.
But who's going to take him?
Somebody will, man. Somebody will.
That contract is almost like it's untenable given the fact that he's making a little over $4 million a year and not producing. I think that's the reason he hasn't been traded yet, is because that contract is so high.
How much term is left on that contract?
It's got to be at least 2 years. Or maybe a year, maybe 2, but that is the reason he hasn't been traded is because of that.
He signed a 2-year, $9.5 million contract with the Sabres, including $9.5 million guaranteed and an annual average of 4.75. He signed that. I'm guessing it was last year. It was only a 2-year deal.
Yeah. So either way, there's
maybe next year is the last year of that deal.
Definitely another year.
No, dude, it's done after this season.
Is it?
He is a free agent next year. I'm not sure. That would be UFA too, correct?
It's confusing sometimes, but potentially.
I'm genuinely not too sure. Maybe somebody in the Peanut Gallery can give us an idea. Is that RFA status? Because if that's RFA status, that becomes a little bit more valuable for any team acquiring him because they control his rights. Or if it's UFA status, I mean, he's a rental, but a very cheap rental at that. At the deadline for a team looking for power play help, and which I think he could give a team power play help given the right circumstance. Yeah. Benson finally scores at home. Beautiful goal. Absolutely beautiful.
Really, really nice. He's only scored nice goals this year for the most part.
Yeah. He admitted to, we'll go over the post-game comments too after Hockey Hotline being in a slump too. From Ricky's channel, whatever Coach Meatballs did in practice work, don't change anything. How do you boys like UPL sharp black and red pads?
So good.
Love them. They are super nice. Very, very good. Nice. Very clean.
Everything about his setup is amazing.
It's a 1-game winning streak from Kevin. Hans, I am heartened but refuse to get excited. I'm right there with you, bud. I won't buy in until I see 3 wins in a row. Levi will probably play the back-to-back March 2nd and 3rd, possibly. We'll see. We're not really trying to speculate when he'll play, just kind of reiterating what Adam said. 6-0 when Bryson is in the lineup. Is this the new Samuelson talking point from last year?
Yeah, I mean, maybe it is. I was gonna say that in I was going to have him as one of my 3 stars tonight.
Yeah, right.
But
We'll hit
that's out of the bag. Jacob Bryson is the linchpin to this team.
He might be. Wild that Skinner and Tage didn't make the score sheet in a 7-0 blowout. Yeah, we said at the top of the show. Tage, no points tonight. I'm blown away by that.
Yeah,
Greenway, however, having his best game as a Sabre.
Yeah, he was 3 points plus 4, really, really good. I had Peterka to score a goal, parlayed with Casey Middlestat point, which was plus 450. Yeah. And thankfully, Casey got an assist late in the game. But yeah, that's just the way it's been going recently for those two.
Benson, one of the best. What's his goal song?
Oh, gosh. I don't know.
Somebody, Peter Fitzgerald, can you let us know in the comments what his goal song is? We have no idea. I told everyone he was putting up 30 this year, JJ Peterka. You heard it there first. You know, Ty B.
I think before the season, we said 50-plus points for him. So
I think we did.
We're definitely
he was like an unsung hero of the team or under the radar type player when we had Matthew Fairburn on.
Would have expected a 25-25.
He will be a UFA this next season.
So, but yeah, I mean, the goal scoring has obviously been great, and he's been the reason we've won 20. I mean, he's not been the reason we won 23 games, but he's been a big reason they've won as many games as they have. So,
yep, undefeated at 4.75 this year. Or sorry,
Undefeated
UFA
is the name of the song.
Undefeated by Charlie on a Friday. Undefeated Charlie on a Friday. Okay. I'll have to give that one I'll have to give that
artist one is Charlie on a Friday, who's a very popular artist these days, especially for Gen Z, the young kids. So
we're going to kick it over here to Hockey Hotline for the next couple minutes, and then we'll come right back to you. Here is Hockey Hotline. And welcome to Hockey Hotline, brought to you by Fatty Beer Company, Western New York's premier market and tap room. Here on Hockey Hotline, our first caller, we're going to go to Matt, also known as Paramat Pictures. Matt, how the hell are you doing tonight? Sabres win 7-0. Tell me what you're thinking.
We're less than a month away from the trade deadline. We all know what we want, but is there any particular player you were looking for, or I don't know, fingers crossed?
I mean, it's tough to decide. We don't really know what's available. We hear what's rumored available. I think what they need right now is definitely more players that are going to fill out your bottom 6. Maybe a top 6 guy. I think bottom 6. I think your top 6 going forward is really, kind of set, especially with some of the younger talent you're going to have coming in. For me, I would love to see a guy like Boone Jenner, Blake Coleman, Mackenzie Weegar, a top 4 defenseman, somebody like that can score but also play a physical style. Doesn't have to be Mackenzie Weegar, but somebody like that. You hear about Brett Pesce. You hear about Noah Hannafin a lot. But for me, I need somebody that's going to be able to play with Owen Power, something they should have figured out last offseason. And I think that is only going to come via trade. Thanks, Matt, for hopping on. We're going to kick things over to the man, the myth, the legend, Jake, returning caller. Jake, how the hell are you doing? Sabres win 7-0. Let me know what you're thinking.
Everybody's going to be talking about the offense. I can count on both hands on how many players played very well tonight, but how about the stretch that UPL has had? Saw a stat before the game was on MSG. Over the last 8 games that he's played, 1.68 goals against average, 9.36 save percentage, gets another shot. Tonight, I think he faced around like 28, 30-something shots. So how about him? Praise our goaltender, man. He's our clear cut and dry number 1.
I can't disagree with you there. UPL has looked great. Hopefully, the consistency thing has been put to bed with him. I would expect he would probably have a stinker at some point. It's going to happen. You can't really expect him to maintain this level of play every single game. But the fact that he's been able to for the last 6-7 games has been very, very, very impressive. I have so many good things to say about how Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen has played. It makes it tougher to put Comrie in that's for sure, especially with the spot that they're in right now in the season that they kind of dug themselves. And it just goes to show if the team could have at least given all of their goaltenders some goal support like they gave UPL tonight, if they could have played this well defensively to the start, the first half of the season, where they could be right now in the standings. Definitely a lot to think about, especially as we approach the deadline. Jake, thanks for hopping on, man. We're going to kick things over to Mr. Chris Durek, returning caller. Chris, how are you doing, buddy? Sabres win 7-0. Give me your thoughts, bud.
So, Duane, what do you want to talk about?
You tell me, bud. You called in.
Well, hey, I'm just sorry. Had to get that out there. Hashtag we want Cody.
Oh, no, I see what you did there. Oh, wow. See, I am a terrible Cody Rhodes fan now. I didn't catch on to that.
But honestly, I felt like this was one of their better defensive games also, but it's kind of sad that it was also without one of your number one defensemen.
Yeah, not having Owen Power in there is a bummer. It is what it is. Hopefully from what we've been made to understand, it's probably only be a couple of games, which is nice. But unfortunately, the Sabres didn't miss a beat tonight without him. Score 7 goals, get the shutout, UPL's 4th shutout of the season. Still a guy that you're gonna miss if he has to miss, if he does in fact miss any expended amount of time. But from what we've heard so far, it's not a very significant injury. Maybe 2 to 3 games, it sounds, my guess. So any final thoughts there, Chris, before we kick it over?
Well, the thing is that I know people are going to be kind of complaining that, Thompson, Cousins, wish you saw more. But guess what? If you have your entire team finding ways to win like this every night, I'll take it.
Yeah, me too, man. Unfortunately, you kind of hope that. Unfortunately, it took the coach calling out the effort and the lack of net presence for them to have a game like this. And I'm not really buying into tonight's game. I'll take it for what it is, a great effort after your coach calls you out. Now the key is you have to continue to play with this type of effort. They scored 5 goals tonight by going to the net.
Yeah, I agree.
That's just imagine what could it be right now in the standings if they've been doing this all season. Thanks again, Chris, for calling in. We are going to kick it over to our next caller. Jonathan, ready? John, thanks for calling in, bud. You are on Hockey Hotline. What are you thinking?
Very nice win, but it's a shame that the season's pretty much lost. I want to ask you what your thoughts on what Kevin Adams said earlier today. Well, first of all, I want to ask about Terry Pegula and what he said, that Pegula is usually in on the Terry Pegula asked questions, and during the scouting department. Did you hear what Kevin Adams said today?
Yeah. I'll pick it up from there. That how involved Terry is with the team. He's he's watching every game. He's in all the meetings, scouting. Like, listen, I think the GM is supposed to say that. I mean, I don't think he's going to throw his owner under the bus, especially the owner that showed enough faith in him to make him the GM. Do I believe all that? I mean, I believe there's the truth. I believe there's what he's saying, what we believe in the truth. I think it's probably somewhere in between. I think maybe Terry Pegula is a lot more involved now, especially that the Bill season is over. But I find it hard pressed to believe he's there every single day. With the way this season has gone, with there being no changes at all, especially on the coaching staff, not necessarily Granato, but maybe the people around him. In terms of the way they're going to handle the trade deadline, I like the fact that they're not looking for futures and picks. It's they want players that are going to help them now. I do like that Alex Tuch is off the table because I think he's going to be a very integral part of getting this team back to the playoffs. And I liked what he said about Levi. He's going to reevaluate Levi after about a month in Rochester. I don't think Levi's season is done in Buffalo. We probably will see him again, I imagine, depending on how the season's going. I liked everything that Kevin Adams had to say, but I take it with a grain of salt in terms of the owner.
Yeah, I will agree with that. I mean, Kevin Adams did say the right things, but I really wish he had done these things back in the off season when. Yeah, the problem is he's doing the right thing. It sounds like he wants to do the right thing. The problem is he's doing it too late to save the season. It looks like he wants to keep building for the future, It's like, we've been waiting 13 years, so the time to win is now.
Yep, agreed. And that's the way the mindset should have been all season. And the only move that Kevin Adams made was for a guy who was playing in the AHL and Eric Robinson. And unfortunately, that was too little too late. It would take almost a miracle right now for this team to make the playoffs. Thanks for calling in, John. Love the Tyler Ennis jersey. We are going to kick things back over to I'll Hang Up and Listen right now. And that was I'll Hang Up and that was Hockey Hotline. One of our newer segments on the post-game show here. I'll Hang Up and Listen. Any thoughts on anything any our callers to say? Chris, John, Matt, and who was the fourth caller? I can't remember. It was such a long time ago. It was like 5 minutes ago. It was Chris, John, Matt, and Jake. Sorry. Any thoughts on any of our 4 callers?
Yeah, just a little bit more on UPL. I think it's necessary to point out how good he's been. I think one of our callers listed off his stats over the past month or so, and they are some of the best in the league. He's been a top 5 goalie in the NHL, I think, since January 1st, and maybe even some parts into December. So it gets into the discussion as we've been having intermittently throughout the year. What does this look like for the future? Is he your number 1 goalie, at least for the next year or so? Obviously, pending what happens with Devin Levi. They've been developing UPL for 2-3 years now. People have been waiting for him to get to this level, to have this level of consistency, to be this guy who won Finland a World Junior Championship, who was the best goalie in the OHL, who was a second-round draft pick. He's got the prototypical build. He had the athleticism, and then he had double hip surgery. But every indication that we've seen from him over the past month and a half, 2 months or so, and honestly for most of the year, is that he's been really good. And he started the year as your 3rd goalie. So it's a discussion you have to have, and also especially coming up, the fact that he's a restricted free agent. I think that a potential good bridge, I've seen it a lot online. There was one in our group chat earlier today, is potentially 3 years, $4 million per year. I think that's fair given what he's done and what his projection is going to be. I would absolutely not trade him. I just saw, I think Joe Marino or someone else on Sabres Twitter put out a poll. Is he your goalie of the future? Is he your number 1 right now? Or the value is high? Would you trade him for another goalie or someone else? I would absolutely not do that.
I'm not going to say I don't want them to trade UPL, because I think you could put yourself in a situation like Boston's in right now. I don't think UPL is going to cost you a ton on a 3-year deal. Seeing as this is the first time he's ever sustained a stretch like this in his career. So, I mean, it's hard for me to say he doesn't win goalie of the month, right?
The way he's going, absolutely.
At the very least.
And I don't think any team's going to offer sheet him either. So that's the.
I don't know about that, man, because
offer sheets never happen.
They do though.
Never.
Player.
And I don't think it would happen for a guy who before this year hasn't been consistent.
I personally think it could happen just because from a business standpoint, at the end of the day, hockey is a business. Obviously, we're far under the cap, far under than most others. Some teams don't like maybe the competitive advantage that the Sabres might have. Maybe they do what Edmonton did to Buffalo with Thomas Vanek. They up an offer sheet on him. Maybe they offer $6 million a year for over 3 or 4 years, and they force Buffalo in the corner. Hey, sign it. You want to keep him? You don't want to run into an Allmark situation? Then you got to sign him. I could totally. If I was a GM, either looking for a goalie or in the division looking to really stick it to Buffalo, and I knew they were going to sign him to that offer sheet, why not? This is a business.
But you also have to be responsible, and throwing out $6 million a year to a guy who's had 3/4 of one good season in the NHL would not be a responsible move.
No, but I'm just saying in the sense of trying to rid a team of their competitive advantage of having so much room on the salary cap because you were proactive and signed these players to contracts based on their expected ceiling or the glass ceiling, that is. And I actually, in a separate group chat, shout out to the Buffalo Sports Idiots, my buddy Z mentioned, to your point, trading UPL if you don't think he's your goaltender of the future. I mean, what would you get? What would you get? I don't want to trade him, but hypothetically, what would you get for UPL?
I mean, you'd have to get a goalie back. And the goalies that you hear about on the market and you have been hearing about on the market are John Gibson and UC Saros. And they would be going to teams that kind of on the rebuild, haven't had much success in a long time in Anaheim and Nashville. So you'd get one of those two guys back. If it's for UC Saros, you'd probably have to give something in addition to UPL to get UC Saros. And John Gibson would be potentially a veteran complement to Devin Levi. So I'm not entirely sure. And and that's why it's such an interesting discussion, because this is relatively new for him. Like, he hasn't done this for that long. He looks really good, and he's proving a lot of people right in terms of where his projection was and where he was back in 2018 and 2019 and why we were so excited about him. I just think that if he keeps this up over the next couple months and makes this team competitive and keeps them in these games, and as he has been doing, that Kevin should be proactive about this and getting that bridge deal done.
And I think he would be. I think he would be. UC Saros, currently Nashville sits 7th in their division. They're tied with the Devils right now, 2-2. He has respectable numbers on a bad team. I'll definitely say that.
It's not the best season of his career, but he's been largely pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably been one of the better players on that team on a bad team, for the most part. Some more comments here from Brandon. Jacob Bryson. Do we know what that means?
Nope. Lose maybe? Lose Owen Power? I don't know.
Maybe. I'm sorry for our ignorance, Brandon, but you want to maybe give us a better idea of what that means. Finally, forwards and defense and playing direct, heading to the net. Amen. Hallelujah. Wonder we're going to see. We missed him in the last couple shows. La to you. Samuelson and Power out, and the defense looked its best all season. For the Power conversation, don't get me wrong, this hasn't been his best year defensively, but we've all seen with him the way he moves the puck up the ice and what he has to offer offensively. By no means should people be trying to start the narrative, get rid of Owen Power. He's you're potentially getting rid of a future possible Victor Hedman type player.
He was second in Calder voting last season.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's just a dumb conversation to have. He has, don't get me wrong, and I was right there with you guys. People might even blame me for starting that narrative, because I was the one that put that live photo about benching him mid-game because he looked fucking atrocious for like 5 games in a row, and he wasn't playing well. He wasn't playing with any confidence. He was making boneheaded, stupid mistakes. You probably remember that. But by no means are you trading Owen Power, or do you actually think this team in the long term is better without him? No way, no how. You look at teams that have won multiple cups, your Tampa Bays, your Chicago Lightning, your LA Kings, they all had blueprints similar to what Buffalo has had, especially on the blue line. There's no way I'm trading Owen Power. On a side note, more from Ty B, my buddy was the Salute to Service member today. They gave him an autographed Darlene jersey before the upcoming stoppage, and then Darlene scored. Incredible moment. Get us his name, Ty. Let's give him a shout out when you have a chance if you're still watching. From Mauricio, LA Kings defense and caught the puck all night. Unforced errors. Baker dozens. Chef's turnovers. LA Kings goalie looks shaky. Talking Cousins need to step up their games consistently every game. I definitely agree there. You need your top
Cousins that block at the end of the game where he took it off his back. Did you see that?
Yeah, that was incredible.
Unbelievable. Stayed on the ice. He also got the puck to the net on the Okposo goal. Obviously, he hasn't been scoring. That's been his main issue. But over the past 3-4 weeks or so, I do think Cousins has returned his game to.
He's definitely playing more like the guy he was last year. Obviously, this whole team has struggled to score. Not named except for Casey Middlestat and JJ Paterka, but Cousins' game does look at his turnaround. I do agree with you what you said at the top of the show about Tage. I think he's been playing hurt since the first 2 weeks of the season. I think it's multiple things.
I think Tuck has too.
Yeah. Well, Tuck's been playing hurt since 2 weeks leading into the season.
Yeah.
Before game 1 even. And like when you get hurt like that, like you don't have time to rehab. You know what I mean? You know, and especially when you're already in a hole like they were the first couple weeks in, it's not like you can go to Don Granado or Kevin and say, "Hey, man, I need time off. I need to rehab." No, you want to be there for your team and you want to play through it, and you want to look soft. And then, but in turn, it's actually hurt the team in a lot of ways. So, more from Mauricio. I missed the entire game. I'm shocked the good luck charm is not watch any more games if they continue winning. Next game we have stiff competition in Florida. Thompson is struggling. Yeah, as we mentioned, Tage just. I think the first glimpse we've seen of a healthy Tage Thompson was when he finally scored from his office. A couple of games, was it a game ago or a couple of games ago? Blew it by him, top corner, over 100-mile-per-hour slap shot. That's the Tage we all love and miss. I still think even tonight, like a couple moments where he really stood out, but other than that, he was pretty invisible tonight.
Yeah, for sure. And like we said, it could be injury, could be a variety of different things. I think Skinner's hurt too, since he was out for a few games. I think it was McKinnon that shoved him into the boards, and he had an upper body injury, and he was out after that. But he basically has been invisible as well. So your top line's not producing. That's been the case all year, and it's the reason they are where they are, along with the power play being absolutely brutal. But a lot of those guys are on that unit.
Then you're handcuffing yourself on the cap. It's not worth it in terms of signing UPL. And again, I was just playing devil's advocate. I wasn't saying that he should get paid $6 million, but in a business that is sports, I mean, a team offering something ridiculous like that, like over 5, putting Buffalo in a much worse cap position, I wouldn't be surprised, to put it that least. But yeah, I agree with that. Watch out for Ottawa. They're playing well. How many points currently are we behind the last wild card position?
10.
And listen, I think at this point last season, if we were playing like this, that'd be a much bigger number, wouldn't it be? Because I think the East there wasn't as much parity in the East this last year as there is this year in terms of how tight it is.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely there's definitely more parity towards the bottom of the divisions and in the wild card race. So yeah, I mean, it was your opportunity, just like the Bills down here for the conference, and it's tough. But yeah, I mean, for us to take this seriously again, win these next 2, and then we can at least start talking about it again. But until then, it's a good game, but it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, agreed. From Jack O'Connor, sign Gensel and Pesce in the offseason and run it. I love Jake Gensel and I love Brett Pesce. Brett Pesce is a move that he should have made last year.
Great point by my boy OC there.
That's your boy, huh?
Yeah, friend of the program.
Did I meet him?
You might have. I'm not sure.
Was that at Gabe's Gate?
Yeah, I don't think he was there for that.
Oh, okay, I did not meet him.
He's a devoted listener. But I
absolutely love it.
As we've been talking, Brett Pesce would be an unbelievable addition to this team. He is the defensive presence on the blue line that they've been lacking for a long time. We thought we had it in Samuelson. Turns out he might not be that, and he also is made of glass. So you need a guy that can be consistent and durable back there. And Jake Gensel, an unbelievable scorer. I think he's benefited from being on a line with Sidney Crosby. He's more of a Chris Kunitz was. Like, he's better than Chris Kunitz, but I think that he has benefited from playing in that system and being on that power play. I do think he's really good, and it would depend on how much we could sign him for. But a guy like that who has consistently produced in this league for a really long time to add to your top 6, middle 6 is absolutely necessary for this team.
Couldn't agree more. Best 1-game winners in the league. I can't get.
Hey,
disagree.
We're gonna
and in the goat head jersey. Why not?
I think weirdly, given that they played so well against the Stars and they got Ottingered, the Blues game was weird. The Greenway high stick was a horrible call. I think they could easily have tied that game. We're having an entirely different conversation if those two games go differently, and then this game happens. We're right back in it. So they've played well against the best teams in the league, right? You got Florida coming into your building on Thursday night, coming off a 7-0 win against a pretty good LA team. This is the momentum that you need. This is the momentum that can potentially get you back in that conversation. So I think this could be it. I'm gonna choose to be optimistic.
Yeah. If the Sabres go on a 5-6 game heater without Power, does that change anything? No.
Without Power in the building, without
He's
Power,
back in the lineup.
without Power in their homes, what type of power are we talking about?
He's talking about Owen Power.
Oh, well, if we're talking about Owen Power, no, it doesn't change anything.
He's back in the lineup. You just paid that guy $8 million a year. He's back in the lineup.
Yes, he's 20 years old and hasn't been that good defensively. But if you want to give up on Owen Power, you're doing yourself a disservice.
100%. Think we make any significant additions at the deadline? I think Calgary is a team to talk about, right? I think Calgary is a team that has team players that are on term, players.
Rasmus Andersson. There's three guys. Rasmus Andersson, there's Nazem Kadri, and there's Blake Coleman. 3 guys I think you can easily insert into this lineup, and they fill, especially Kadri and Coleman, that fill, like I've been talking about, like I've been begging for, they're skilled role players. Kadri, obviously coming off an MVP level year last season, 2 years ago,
is going to more of a skill set player, but he gives you some of those, attributes that you just don't have up and down your line.
He's hard to play against.
Huh?
He's hard to play against. He's annoying. Other teams hate him.
He's a pest.
Yeah.
He's an absolute pest.
That's exactly what they need.
A
little bit on the older side, but I would welcome any addition to the forward group, to be honest. But yeah, those would be 2 really. In 3, I mean, we've been talking about Anderson for a long time, especially for the defense. But yeah, obviously the forward group needs a little bit of jam. They need a little bit more playmaking, a little bit more scoring. So that would be great.
How do you feel about Mackenzie Weegar?
Gosh, I picked him up in fantasy this year, and he's been unbelievable. I don't know if he'd be available, but he's been so good. He's a top 15, top 20 defenseman in the league this year. He's doing everything.
14 goals.
Shot, like point production, shots, block shots, hits. I can look it up, but he's ranked in the top 40 of fantasy hockey of all players because he does everything. Like yes. He's been incredible all around the ice on a team that's like obviously not incredible. So yeah, I would love that, but yeah, who knows if he would be available.
Yeah, I think that, and not just obviously his ability to put the puck in the net and create offense. I think Weegar is just, to your point about Kadri, a very tough player to play against. Yeah. He isn't your prototypical, scoring defenseman. Like he's hard to play against. He's physical. He's not going to allow you. He's not going to puck watch in front of his own net. He's going to take the body. He's going to pick up sticks. He's going to move people around. He's going to make you think twice when you go into a corner. When you go to the front of the net in front of UPL. Like he's not a guy to really just ignore or not be timid of. I love the idea of Mackenzie Weegar.
Reputation in this league matters. Like having guys really players around the league know what type of player they are. That brings you confidence to your group and also makes other teams a little bit more hesitant coming into your building, going in your zone, in a variety of different ways. So yeah, names like that would be great for this team, and they haven't happened honestly in a really long time. Maybe since we signed Ryan O'Reilly and Evander Kane in the same offseason. It's been a while since they.
Dude, I remember being so excited.
Yeah, I mean, then that was the first year of Jack Eichel. So the team hasn't produced well enough to get to that point where free agents have been willing to even come here. But at the same time, there's a lot of young talent. There is promise still, and I do think there's a possibility.
It seems like a lot of people in the chat want to talk about this. So we'll keep going for a little bit. Casey Middlestat, we did talk about that. He is listening on Casey. I'm assuming he's probably getting a call about Casey Middlestat almost every day, right? Like that's a guy.
Yeah, maybe, but like how serious can these calls be? Because
I would think they'd be pretty damn serious because he is an RFA. He's not a UFA, so that's a player's rights you still control.
But the asking price has to be enormous.
Yeah, but so is the you see last year's deadline. I mean, we have to go back and look. The Sabres do, and I want them to keep Casey Middlestat. I just want to be completely transparent about that. He's one of the best 5-on-5 players in the 5-on-5 scoring players in the league. But if he is going to go, I think it'd be smart for Buffalo to set the market themselves with Casey Middlestat, because everybody waits for that first team to set the market price at the trade deadline. Why not be the first ones?
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree, just to make a bidding war, but at the same time, like, I am already mad at what the return would be, because I don't think it would be enough. He's not that superstar level that you're going to get something back that's going to wow you, and it's going to have that reputation, or bring back someone with that reputation that we were talking about. Unless it was like Casey Middlestat for Rasmus Anderson and Nazem Kadri in a pick or something like that. You know what I mean?
Well,
but I don't think that's ever going to happen. So what you're going to be removing from your lineup and the return you're getting back, like, I can't see them being able to make a deal that would be worth it. I really don't, especially given the fact that he's 24 years old and he's entering the beginning of his prime right now. It's just, it would be really, really tough for me to justify it unless it was something, and unless you fleeced a team, which would be really hard to do because trades are hard to make in the NHL these days. It's as simple as that.
What if you got a guy like, his name's been tossed around to, it was, again, a name that was tossed around in 32 Thoughts, a Boone Jenner and a defenseman, like a Jiricek even.
I mean, Jiricek's a
First
top
round
10 pick 3 years ago. I don't know how old Boone Jenner is, but you're
I'll
taking
tell you right now how old Boone Jenner is. Boone Jenner, who was an all-star this year, even though, I mean, take that for what you want. Boone Jenner is, why can't I find, there he is. Boone Jenner is at the young, ripe age of 30.
So my point is, you'd be taking a considerable amount of production out of your lineup, a lineup that doesn't really have production, to, fortify your defensive forwards and also get a really, really good defensive prospect.
But you'd be getting more back to fill out your lineup too. I mean,
would you be getting more besides those two players for just Casey Middlestat? I don't think so.
For a guy, you have to remember, man, having a player's RFA rights, that matters to a lot of GMs. Like, he's not a rental. He's not a guy that you're just getting. You control his rights. You can send him to arbitration. He signs the arbitration deal. That's 2 years, just like we just had.
I don't know why
a lot of teams in the National Hockey League.
I don't know why the Blue Jackets would do that. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like that. That's a team that, I mean, I would
want to be younger.
Yeah, but I would like a Johnny Hockey coming back for Casey Middlestat. Like, they get rid of that contract. We get a proven guy who's still young, and they get a younger guy that they can rebuild with. That's the type of thing that would make the splash that I would need. I think Johnny Hockey.
You would want Johnny Gaudreau.
Yes, what I'm saying. They're the same age.
They are the same age. They're both 30 years old.
Oh, Boone Jenner, yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think Johnny Gaudreau is still a top 20, 30 forward in the league. He's just been in a really bad situation in Columbus. So that makes a splash, in my opinion. And that's the type of thing that I would need by trading Casey Middlestat. It's not the best example because, he is 30 years old. But I think Gaudreau plays the type of game that he could play until he's 40. I really do.
If you're trading him to Calgary, we'll go back to Calgary for a Blake Coleman and a Mackenzie Weegar. Are you saying yes?
Yeah, maybe. Just
that's got to be.
Given how good Weegar's been.
At this point, man, like, if I'm just saying a situation where he has to be traded, I want to make it clear again. I do not want to trade Casey Middlestat, but if you're in a situation where you don't want to pay him what he wants, because we don't know what that number is. He wants to stay in Buffalo. We do know that. But what is that number? If it's a number that Kevin doesn't want and he's going to trade him, how do you say no to a guy two guys that are still relatively young in the league? You've already saw he's a right-handed defenseman. There's your guy playing next to Owen Power. right there, or maybe Darlene, whichever. Figure that out. That's done.
I mean, I we can go through names of players all night.
Yeah, I'm just.
But I would say that it's got to be for a relatively young guy who has produced consistently in the NHL, maybe not as much as Casey has over the past year and a half, and a quality defenseman. That is the lowest point for that trade to happen for me. So,
yep. Middlestat asking price has to be a top 4 defenseman plus no picks. Completely agree there, Kevin. Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. Kadri eliminates need for Middlestat third line center. Don't disagree with that. He would. What if it was Kadri? What if it was Kadri and Mackenzie Weegar?
I mean, I would do that in a second.
Yeah, I hope so.
But that's the thing.
So.
Like, that's the type of deal that needs to happen for this, for any of us to be happy, which I don't think is possible.
And here's my thing too about Casey is, and I've said it a couple times. You've even said it a couple times. We have too many of the same types of players on this team, perimeter players. I'm not saying that's Casey is, but right now he's your third line center, which isn't a bad thing.
Gosh,
but
I mean the way he's been playing though, he shouldn't be.
He shouldn't be, but he is.
Yeah, for sure. And
I'm
believe me, I'm not giving up on Tage Thompson and Dylan Cousins.
No, definitely not. But that's who your third line center is. It's Casey Middlestat.
But he's a top 6 player. Like I agree.
I agree. I agree that if you blueprint this team to what you want to blueprint this team to look like that 05-06 team that was so unstoppable because you had so much depth down the middle. You want Casey Middlestat as your third line center. But at the end of the day, if he's going to ask for like $7 or $8 million, and Kevin is just shaking his head, no, like I can't do that. I mean, if I can bring in 2 guys, for relatively $12 million combined, I'm not sure how much Mackenzie Weegar makes, $13 million combined, but they're going to fill massive holes. They're going to fill the hole that Casey Middlestat leaves, give you that toughness, that grit, that jam that you don't have at all in your lineup. The closest thing you got to right now is probably Jordan Greenway or Peyton Krebs. And you're bringing in a bona fide top 4 defenseman, a guy who's going to be there for a long time, who's going to solidify Owen Power or Rasmus Dahlin's running mate. I'm saying yes. I'm driving him there because what we've been doing, what the format has been, what the blueprint has been, has not worked. And it's not going to work if we keep running back these same players and the same mindset of being soft and not difficult to play against. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think we can play it by ear as it happens and more things come out. But I think we're on the same page that I would rather him stay. And if you trade him,
I agree. I want Casey Middlestat to be a Buffalo Sabre for the foreseeable future. Okposo be on the first line still cracks me up. That's great. You want to know why Tage Thompson didn't get on the score sheet tonight? That right there is probably the reason why.
Yeah. Well, he got a goal himself.
Middlestat, Savoy, and a second round pick for Kadri and Weegar.
Yeah, hard to say, but
I would want something else coming back.
Yeah, for sure.
Something else coming back, maybe a bottom 6 guy for sure. Say we trade Mitz for who takes that third. Say we trade Mitz who takes that third line center spot. Whoever's coming back in that trade. Blake Coleman's a center. Again, we're speculating. We're playing GM for a day, armchair GM, whatever. You want to give me your 3 stars of the night?
Third star, the undefeated Jacob Bryson, 6-0-0 in the lineup. He had 2 points, 2 assists, and he was a +4 tonight. Plus minus, obviously, not the best indication of if he played a good game or not, but +4, pretty good in a 7-0 game. He had a really, really nice pass to Zach Benson for his goal. And generally, I thought offensively, he's been pretty good this year when he has played, obviously only 6 games. And defensively, he hasn't been a liability. So if he can be a little stopgap when we have these injuries, I'm cool with it. Second star, I'll go UPL. 33 saves in a shutout for his 4th of the year. I didn't necessarily think he had too many difficult saves tonight, I thought just generally the Sabres played pretty good defensively, and the Kings were really bad. But he made the saves he needed to, and it's just another indication of how consistent he's been this year. And the first star, Jordan Greenway, 2 goals, 1 assist. I think he was +4 as well, around the net all night, hitting people, block shots. I'm not even sure if they had a power play or not, but he's always good on the penalty kill. He has the best game as a Sabre, and I think he's largely been really, really good this year. So, more types of players like Jordan Greenway, please, moving forward.
2 of my players are the same as 2 of yours. My third star, we're going to kick it over to UPL. Normally you put the guy who gets a shutout higher up on that list. I tend to agree, but I'll give my reason for him being the third star with my second star. Second star, I'm going JJ Peterka. JJ got things rolling for them early, went to the net, really set the tone for getting them on the board. Led by example, a guy who has been probably one of the most consistent scorers all season, if not the most consistent, next to Middlestat. I liked his game a lot. He was all over the ice. That line they started with, was it Greenway? What line was it? Greenway? His line coming out right after the line that started. It was they started with Middlestat, Greenway, and Tuck, and then they went to JJ's line, and they just set the tone from right there after they got that early goal. And I just felt like they really set the pace for the game there for that to get out of hand as it did. And I was a big fan of JJ's game tonight. And then my first star, same as yours, Jordan Greenway. Jordy had probably the best game of his Sabres career. He was all over the ice, all over the front of the net. One of the only guys, to your point earlier, who always goes to the net. I don't really know if I count Zach Benson, because normally a kid like him is expected to do all those things. He hasn't really caught into those bad habits that we've seen a lot of these players in this team get themselves deep into this year. But Jordan Greenway has been the constant below the dots. Loved his game tonight. Sure, Don Granado probably had nothing but good things to say about him. You know how much Donnie loves him, and put him in great positions tonight to succeed. Other point scorers for tonight: Greenway, as we stated before, 2 goals and assists for 3 points. Jacob Bryson with 2 points. Darlene with a goal and assist. JJ Peterka, a goal and assist. Alex Tuck, a goal and assist. Zach Benson getting out of that goal scoring slump with a goal. Then Dylan Cousins, Ryan Johnson, Krebs, Middlestat, all with assists, and Kyle Okposo with a goal on the deflected shot from Cousins. I do want to say Ryan Johnson looked great tonight.
Yeah, nice assist to Darlene on his goal. And in general, he's just a great puck mover. Really, really good offensive defenseman. And I think he's held his own in his own end too. So, another bright spot. I think
the days of seeing Ryan Johnson in the press box are over.
I hope so, man. I hope the days of seeing Eric Johnson on this team are close to being over.
No, he's good as gone at the deadline. I think he knows.
Yeah, so
he's going to go to a contender. He could be a Maple Leaf for all we know.
Well, it is what it is. But another reason for optimism for the future: Ryan Johnson has been largely really, really good in his first year.
I liked Peyton Krebs' game tonight too. I know Krebs he got an assist, but I think that he looked a lot more like the guy we expect him to be in that we were expecting to get back in that deal. His hands were a little bit more on display tonight. His vision. There were a couple of shifts out there where I really noticed him from the time he stepped on the ice till the time he stepped off. Liked his game a lot tonight too.
Yeah, I think he's not necessarily a guy that needs to be slotted on the fourth line his entire career. I could absolutely see him being a wing on the third line, having a role on maybe the second power play unit. He's a really good playmaker when he's given the opportunity, especially when he plays with better players. So yeah, I'm excited to see what we see from him moving forward.
Couldn't agree more. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, kind of as we've said. I think we're having an entirely different discussion if the Stars and the Blues games go a little bit differently in terms of goal scoring. They would be right back in it, be really excited, obviously, after a 7-0 win. And while it's encouraging, it's nothing to latch onto quite yet. They absolutely need to beat the Panthers at home on Thursday, which is not an easy task. They've been one of the best teams in the league for the past 2 months, and then you're on the road in a tough environment in Minnesota on Saturday. So if they can win those two, win their first 3 games in a row for the first time this season, then you can start to get back and be excited and have legitimate reason for optimism. Starting with UPL, the fact that he's taken control of this number one starting job and he's looked as good as he has, that's the brightest spot for this team, along with obviously Peterka and Middlestead and the guys that have been producing. So see what happens Thursday, and you go from there.
Agreed. My final thoughts are not Sabres related. Ovechkin becomes the oldest player in NHL history to go on a 6-game goal streak, scoring again tonight. Really heating up there in the second half of the season after a really slow start. Ovi Watch officially back on. I think he'll probably have more than 20 goals if he keeps up at this pace. After didn't even look, we weren't even sure if he was going to score 20 at all a couple weeks ago. And Anze Kopitar, the single worst plus-minus game of his career. He was a -6 tonight.
Wow.
Wild. Yes. And he was a plus. I mean, he was high up there. No, I'm sorry. No, that is the worst game in plus-minus from a former Selke winner. That's what it was.
Interesting. Yeah, that's tough. And it shows you how dominant every Sabres forward group and all the defensemen were tonight. They played an unbelievable game. So to do that to a guy like Kopitar, who at the game out here in LA, I think it was his 1,000th game, maybe? No, it must have been more. It was something ridiculous. They honored him before the game when the Sabres played out here. He's a legend. And he's been doing it for a really, really long time, especially on the defensive end. So that says a lot.
Agreed. With that being said, remember, guys, this is brought to you by Fatty Beer Company, Western New York's premier market and tap room. 8 different Western New York locations with over 300 beers to choose from. Make sure you get over to Fatty Beer, opening 11:30 a.m. till 10:30 p.m. and later with live trivia, music, entertainment, all 8 locations, 7 days and nights a week. Western New York's only kid and dog friendly bar, and of course Buffalo Logo Apparel, one of the best places to get any and all of your Buffalo sports apparel needs, from your shirts, your hats, to your hoodies. Make sure you go check out at Buffalo Logo Co., the producer of our own merch going forward. And if you check out their story and latest post, you'll see something new coming out in terms of some Dominic Hasek here.
I think we're gonna need to make a 6K shirt.
I think you're right. I think that might be on the way. Maybe you can design that one. You come up with a design and I'll pitch it.
I'll look into it.
All right. I'll pitch it. We get 20% kickback for anything they sell. So with that being said, this has been I'll Hang Up and Listen, brought to you by Fatty Beer Company and Buffalo Go Apparel. Until next time, when's the next game, Connor?
Thursday night at home against the Panthers.
Thursday night at home against the Panthers. A very tough matchup. Would expect to see UPL in net again after his 4th shutout of the season. We will talk to you. Actually, we'll talk to you Thursday night and potentially rip an episode on Friday. We will talk to you guys later. Have a fantastic night.
Different than they did before, like a sort of